Hello my loyal subjects, it is I, your King, Kingofdoom11, and welcome back to a new video. And this video is going to be a bit different. I've been contemplating for a while in trying something new, and thought, you know what, it's about time, let's just get it over and done with. I'm thinking of starting a series of where I will read you guys a book. Or two, or three, or whatever. And I thought, why not? Let's start. I'll start you guys off with my favourite book series, which is the Iron Elves trilogy, and we'll start with the first one in it, written by the amazing author Chris Evans, and this is A Darkness Forged in Fire, book one of the Iron Elves trilogy, and we'll make this a multiple part series, so I'll possibly read one chapter per episode, sort of thing, and yeah, and obviously you guys can let me know if you guys like this sort of thing, and if so, then we can carry on and we'll read other books and stuff like that. Obviously I have to keep them obviously YouTube friendly, so 50 Shades of Grey will be a big no-no, but there's other books that we can read and stuff like that. So I'll tell you a little bit about the Iron Elves trilogy. It's a book, obviously, it's about elves. Iron Elves was like a military legion. There was like a select sort of elvish warriors and stuff like, and they was in service to this like evil dark witch sort of thing, and yeah, and this tells the story of the Iron Elves. So yeah, we'll get into it. It's A Darkness Forged in Fire, as I said, book one of the Iron Elves trilogy, written by Chris Evans and published by Pocket Books. And when we get into the book, we see a beautiful illustrated map of the region around. You got Midara Ocean, Anthal Sea, Calorian Sea, near Alfkina, like basically beautiful places, a beautiful little map, and yeah, well, we'll get in and we'll see what time does for us, and yeah, but so we'll start off with chapter 1. Mountains shouldn't scream, but this one did. The agony of the rock vibrated beneath the paws of a small brown squirrel, crouched low behind a boulder near the summit. The frigid night air thrummed in sympathetic harmony, with the mountain blurring the light from a shooting star trailing crimson in fire across the sky. Shadows shattered and reformed, their shapes subtly altered. The squirrel sat up on its hind legs and looked to the sky, its glittering eyes following the path of the red star as it burned across the sky towards the east. Letting out a sigh, the squirrel shook its small head. No matter how many centuries you had to get ready, prophecies always caught you off guard. The stars were returning to the world. It was a strange thought for a squirrel to have, but not for an elf wizard who had taken squirrel form. Remaining transformed for the time being, the wizard dropped to all fours and leaped to another boulder a few feet higher up, stretching out his arms and legs to take advantage of the loose folds of fur between them. He landed on the next boulder, huffing for breath. It was definitely easier to fly going downhill. He looked up the mountain summit and shivered in spite of the fur that currently covered his body. A group of trees dotted the peak. Am I just wrong? And I'm just a squirrel, the wizard thought, rubbing his paws together for warmth before continuing his climb. The wizard's tail bushed as he scampered closer to the top with each jump. The ground felt increasingly wrong. Something was changing it from inside, and he knew what. The roots of the trees on the summit were clawing their way deep into the heart of the mountain to feed on the rock. Until tonight, they had been contained, isolated on this mountaintop, where they could be controlled, if not destroyed. The falling of the red star in the east signalled that that was no longer the case. A power not known in the world since the beginning of time was returning, a power that could either save it or destroy it. He concentrated on the forest, wishing he was powerful enough to wipe it from the face of the earth himself, but knowing it was far beyond him. He hoped, however, that his plan might help the one who could. All the wizard had to do was steal one small thing and survive. It's why he had transformed himself. A wizard going into the forest would never return. A squirrel, on the other hand, had the slimmest of chances of surviving by going unnoticed, he hoped. The wizard paused again in his climb to catch his breath, watching it turn to mist and rise in the icy air, drawing his eyes to the trees that clung to the rock. No living thing should have found a home there, yet the forest survived, its roots boring deeper into the rock, suckling on the bitter ore it found. Leaves turned iron black, and wind honing them to razor edge. Bark crystallized, growing translucent to reveal the thick ichor pulsing beneath, or branches withered needle thin, stabbing down at the ground in a vain search for something fleshier to consume. It was a forest of a kind. The mountain shuddered and sent chunks of rock cartwheeling down its side, as if trying to shake the forest loose. Just in time, the wizard had hidden a crevice until the avalanche had passed. He poked his head up a moment later prepared to make the final dash into the trees. It didn't look promising. Arrow-like twigs splintered against the rock with a sound of ringing iron as the trees hunted it among the shadows. The wizard twitched his squirrel tail, then darted between the crystal trunks in a wild dash for the center of the forest. Branches slashed down as he dodged and scrambled for his life. Family out of breath, on the verge of exhaustion, he came to the very center of the forest. There, on a ragged knuckle of granite, stood a silver wolf oak. He knew the wolf oaks well, good nuts, but this one was wholly unlike the tall, majestic trees of the great forest of the hinterland on the plains below. Those trees were tall and proud, their limbs were strong and supple in the nurturing sun. This tree shared none of those traits, growing low and wide across the rock, snaking its jagged limbs out in every direction to ensure its progeny in a thicket of wild, dark hunger glinting, obsidian-shelled acorns covered the ground beneath it. The forest was expanding. The wizard felt the sudden urge to get off the ground and climb somewhere high. He looked at the trees around him and then decided that the ground, as polluted as it was still preferable. It was as he feared. Being this close to the silver wolf oak was taking its toll. He was starting to think like a squirrel. Wolf oaks were the natural conduits for raw elemental or magic of nature, and among them the silvers had no equal. This one surpassed even them. 500 rings ago, this silver wolf oak had been a sapling cub in the birthing meadow of the great forest. A new young life full of promise. In time it would have towered above the tallest trees in a singular being of incredible, if simple, power, ruling and protecting the forest by influencing all living things around it. It had been that way since the beginning, and then the elves had to come to the hinterland, and everything changed. The wizard fought his most basic instincts, elf and squirrel, to flee down the mountain. Not yet, though. Not without getting what he came for. He placed one paw in front of the other and started to move cautiously towards the silver wolf oak, only to find his progress stopped because the more sensible squirrel part of his mind had wedged his tail between two rocks, saving his life. Black hoary frost sparked on the rocks, radiating out from the trees in all directions. A moment later, a piece of night detached itself from the rest of the darkness. The shadow monarch, elf witch of the high dark forest, had come. She stood beside the silver wolf oak, the reek of cold metallic power filling the forest. He sensed more than saw. Her head turned and looked towards him. His breath froze in his lung. His vision darkened around those edges. Her gaze moved on. He relaxed ever so slightly, drawing in the tiniest breath. Frost glistened off his whiskers. The shadow monarch looked up at the sky, following the path of the fallen red star. She reached out to the tree. Anger, pain, desire, something more infused the two twisting the very air around them. Their madness wove together until their power was one and the same, staining everything. She then wrapped her arms around the tree, a dark thing cradling a dark thing. The wizard sensed what he had long feared. Above all else, she wanted revenge. The wizard raised his head, peering beyond his whiskers to the black tableau a few feet away. The Shadow Monarch was looking down at a pool of ichor beside the silver wolfolk. The pool shimmered, revealing an image of the great forest, and to the west of the mountain, elves of the Long Watch formed to protect the great forest from her madness, patrolled among the trees for centuries, and now they had kept her at bay, forever vigilant, keeping her and her forest isolated on the high of the mountain. It was a comforting vision. What happened next wasn't. Black flame flickered in the great forest, and elves and trees began to shrivel and die. Stars fell wherever they landed. Her forest was there, devouring the stars' power and making it her own. New trees burst forth from the cold earth like daggers of crystal and ore. These trees spread, covering more and more of the ground, until there was no free space that remained. Blanketing mountain and desert, lake, ocean in one dark forest, the mountain shuddered anew. A different image formed in the dark pool. Soldiers now stood about, their green jackets and iron muskets, this unmistakable hallmarks of the Calarian Imperial Army, the sharp edge of the human empire across the ocean. The image of the pool pulled back, revealing more. There was a small fortress on a hill, vaguely familiar to him. Power flowed from her to the pool, and the image grew larger as she searched for something there. The wizard gasped as her magic suddenly washed over him. He struggled to keep control and remembered why he was there. Knowing he was slowly losing the fight as the magic of her forest wreaked havoc with his mind. Shooting star blazed across the sky above the small fort, then stopped, hanging there like the red sun. The brilliance of its light grew until the ichor turned completely crimson, and then the light was gone and no sign of the star remained. But something had changed. Slowly and silently he inched out of his hiding place and crept along the ground towards the thing he had came for. Every step was a cold needle in his paws, but there, just a foot away, lay one silver wolf oak obsidian shelled acorn. It was close, but he needed a distraction. He concentrated, trying to draw magic from the foul power that coursed around him. Wincing in pain, he sifted in his mind until he was able to cleanse enough to perform one small spell. It would have to do. He focused his thoughts on a tree on the other side of the clearing, and for a moment it looked more like what it should have been, brown and green and healthy. The other trees attacked it once, flailing and stabbing at it in a flurry of branches. The wizard lunged, grabbing the acorn between his paws and stuffing it into his mouth. Cold lightning flashed through his head, but he managed to scamper back behind a rock before spitting the acorn into his paws, where it steamed in the air. The mountain shuddered again, a deep, mournful sound. Rocks sauntered, chasms opened deep in the mountain's core, laying bare its ancient past. Flames of black frost leaped from the darkness and high into the night sky. Her forest dug even deeper, delving more than rock, reaching back to an age-long past. Primal red-throated roars not heard for hundreds of years filled the air. They were hungry. Another voice rose above them, and the wizard that remained in control shivered at the words. "You shall feed too," she told them. Roots pulled misshapen creatures from the depths. They spilled forth in black heaps, a shambling mass of crooked limbs and milky white eyes. "Go out to this world as you once did. Gather to me those that bear my mark, those others that would harm my realm. Destroy." Every fibre in his body told him to run while his luck held, but he had to risk one last look in the pool. Like the great forest, tongues of frost fire were engulfing the fortress on the hill, burning everything. Her trees breached the earth, their roots clawing, searching for the star that had fallen there. Enough, He stuffed the acorn back into his mouth and ran for his life. The pain was overwhelming, but he had to get back down the mountain with his prize. Every leap took him further away from the infernal place and closer to the one who now had a chance to stop her. When he reached the bottom of the mountain, he found a nearby cave and crawled into it, spitting the acorn out and collapsing in a heap, his body transforming to that of an elf again. He let the pain of exhaustion take him, drifting into an unconsciousness with the satisfaction of knowing he had succeeded in the first part of his task. When he was fully recovered, he would be able to deliver the prize in person. High up on the mountain, the Shadow Monarch stood watching. She saw the elf was a collapse in the cave. Creatures stood beside her, waiting. Some still bore the look of elves, though terribly twisted. They waited for the command to tear the wizard to shreds. The command did not come. Instead, the Shadow Monarch smiled. World shouldn't scream, but this one would. And that, guys, is the end of Chapter 1. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and let me know if you want to see me do the next chapter. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed. As always, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. But look out for new videos and new live streams and all that good stuff. Don't forget to go check out the merch and the P.O Box, and I'll see you guys all next time. Goodbye.